Fred and Pat Wessendorf's kids were all individuals and seemed more so by the late 1980s. In her early 30s, Susan Wessendorf Dappen was unarguably the athletic daughter. Her husband Don, Donnie to his friends, was a lieutenant with the Vero Beach Police Department. Chief Jim Gabbard invited the spouses of his officers to use the fully equipped gym at headquarters. Susan was there several times a week after work. She and Don jogged, usually taking their dog Casey along, and swam in their own pool. "None of us girls really ever got into cooking," Sue remarked matter-of-factly. "Not me or Sandy, at least." Don Dappen has never minded. Sue concentrated on her very responsible job at the bank and was a great mother to their 2 kids. Moreover, Sue was absolutely fascinated with Don's career from the beginning. Being a policeman's wife is one of the hardest jobs in the world. Some wives don't want to know what happens on a day or night shift. Knowing makes them more frightened for their husbands. The job is easier for a policeman to handle when his wife cares, though, and Sue always did. Don Dappen became a cop when he was 20 years old. Stocky and muscular, a friendly man, but one with a subtly unmistakable air of authority, he made detective at 23. A few years ago, Don Dappen could easily have seen the end of his career and his life when he took a chance at foiling a major drug deal. A 28-year-old Fort Lauderdale man and his partner, a 48-year-old New York resident and a licensed pilot, had loaded a twin-engine Piper Navajo plane with 56 bales of marijuana weighing 1,300 pounds and headed somewhat precariously north from Miami. They made the mistake of stopping at the Vero Beach Municipal Airport to refuel. At 9 p.m. on a Thursday night, the plane taxied past the Federal Aviation Administration's Flight Service Center, and the air traffic controller noted that the numbers on the plane did not match the numbers the pilot had radioed to the tower on landing. The controller notified the Vero Beach Police Department, and Don Dappen responded in an unmarked car. The Vero Beach dispatcher informed him that the plane currently being refueled had serial numbers N4469R, numbers that matched those of a Piper Navajo reported stolen out of a Miami airport. Don Dappen, who would later shake his head when he remembered the incident, realizing in retrospect how it might have ended, watched as the white Navajo, loaded with 200 gallons of fuel, began to taxi slowly down the runway. Dappen turned on his blue bubble lights, hit the siren, and he drove directly onto the airfield, deliberately cutting in front of the moving plane. He expected it to stop, but the pilot didn't even slow down. Instead, he revved up his engine. Don Dappen pulled ahead of the plane while a Vero Beach patrol car raced along beside it. The policeman intended to at least slow the stolen plane. At that point, they were going 80 miles an hour. "He came up behind me real fast," Don recalled. "He just kept coming. He didn't have any intention of stopping. All I could see from the whole back of my car was his headlights." Playing a dangerous game of near misses, Dappen veered off the runway and then back in front of the Navajo. The pilot became airborne, but barely, skipping over the top of Dappen's car at no more than 15 feet. Weighed down by the bales of marijuana, the pilot couldn't get high enough to clear a cabbage palm tree at the west end of the airport. His left wing slammed into the palm, and the plane spun so violently that it ripped apart and catapulted through the darkness into the thick undergrowth at the end of the main runway. It ended in a smoldering heap, leaking the gas it had just taken aboard. Don Dappen and his fellow officer, along with firefighters, pulled the wounded drug traffickers from the wreckage. "It was pitch dark," Dappen said. "You couldn't see anything, and there was an odor of nothing but gasoline." Miraculously, the wrecked $245,000 plane didn't catch fire. Just as miraculously, the pilot and his partner survived, although they needed a hospital stay to recuperate. They were charged with trafficking marijuana, aggravated assault, resisting arrest with violence, and grand theft.